Hey, Bootstrappers. I'm wondering, what is the best Christmas gift that you got this past holiday season? I want to tell you about mine because it was unexpected. A few days before Christmas, my family was already in for the holidays, and I got a box in the mail with an assortment of wrapped gifts that I was absolutely not expecting, and it was from one of my coaching clients. And the best gift I got this Christmas actually was in that box. And it's what it represented that meant so very much to me because my client, among the other gifts that she sent, had crocheted me a scarf. And she said that it really wasn't the best scarf because she hadn't crocheted in years, but that she felt that it was fitting that her first project in years should be a gift for me because it was only because of our coaching that she had the time to crochet again. And it was the perfect color scheme. I'm not sure how she knew, but she did. But the reason that it was the best gift I got this year was because it represented the difference that I was able to help her make in her life. Because guys, whenever you get coaching from anybody, the coach can only help you uncover things and advise you and give you direction. They can support you, they can encourage you. They can't do for you. And so while she attributes having that time back to me, it was her because she was willing to do the work and institute the things and make the steps and make the hard choices that put her in that position. And so, yes, it was us working together, but I was so happy to know that she had time back, that I watched stress melt away from her, that I was able to help her make a difference in her life and in her family. And so now, every time I wear that scarf, I'm going to think about that. And this is not a kudos to me kind of post or live. That's not the point. But that was the most meaningful gift that I got because of what it represented and because of clearly what it meant to her that she would put that time into that project and make it a point to send me that gift. And so it was so awesome and such an encouragement and an affirmation of what I'm doing because, sometimes, guys, we get into this solopreneur race and our progress can be slow. And sometimes that's because of outside circumstances. And sometimes it's because we haven't developed the right habits to grow the business. And sometimes it's just because, as we've talked about before on this page, God is a God of an agrarian economy. He's a God of seeds and harvest. And so when you're growing slow, it can be discouraging, even though you have this head knowledge that tells you, and this knowledge from scripture that tells you not to despise small beginnings and not to despise, the seeds. And we understand that it takes time. We know that you don't plant the apple tree and eat the apple in the same month, much less the same day or week, right? And so we know that, but we're human, right? And we have these emotions and we can get discouraged and it can be tough when the revenue's not coming in, the way we often feel as though we need it to keep going. When we feel like we don't have enough to show for all the effort that we've put in. And so to have that visible representation, that tangible thing that I could hold in my hands that encouraged me, hey, you're on the right track. You're helping people make a difference in their lives and businesses, and you're doing it in a way that aligns with scripture. And this particular representation means even more because, as you may know, if you've heard some of my lives in recent months, I've really started to understand the importance of Sabbath rhythms. And Sabbath rhythms are not just about taking a Sabbath and not working on Sunday or whatever day of the week you're able to do that. It's not just about that. It's so much deeper. And it was like this client, she got time back. She got time back, which helped her in her family. It helped her stress levels, and it gave her time to engage in this hobby that she used to love. And so that all ties into like that Sabbath rhythm, resting and recharging and having time to minister to others in the margins. And so what to her was a token of appreciation, a gift of appreciation that she wanted to express to me, it was so much more to me because it was an encouragement and an affirmation, and it ministered to me even if she didn't know that's what was going on. Like, that's what it did. It ministered to me. And guys, we miss opportunities to minister to those around us, those in our circles, those whose paths we cross, that we influence in some way, because we are all an influence to someone. We are all an influence in certain circles. And I don't want to miss the opportunity because I haven't built in the margins. I don't want to miss the opportunity to build up the kingdom, whether that's just building up another person and helping them to grasp and be encouraged, whatever's going on in their life right now, whether that's just lifting somebody up or whether that is actively walking with them in another way. I don't want to miss those opportunities. And I want to experience God's best for me. And I want you to experience God's best for you. And that's not about some prosperity gospel. It's not about chasing wealth. It's not about chasing the worldly version of success. And I'm understanding exactly how much we hamper ourselves when we try to do it all and we try to have it all, because we can't. It doesn't work that way. This world is a world of trade-offs, and there are priorities. And anytime we say yes to anything, we're saying no to infinitely more. And so having these Sabbath rhythms in our lives, having this time, having this margin is something that I'll be moving forward this year protecting. I'll be working less and not more. And that is counterintuitive to me. And if you're a solopreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you are driven, you are oriented and ambitious, even in a healthy way, that tends to throw us into these unhealthy rhythms, right? Where we work like it all depends on us. And we do need to work hard, and we do need to strive for excellence, but it doesn't depend on us, right? You know, the Sabbath was a command. The Sabbath, to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy, is one of the 10 commandments. And so we like to get very almost self-righteous sometimes. We do. When there are other people breaking commandments that we feel are blatant, like we'll be real quick to judge about adultery or about theft or about murder or about sexual sin, right? But yet, it was one of the 10 commandments that we were supposed to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy, you know, and we don't think anything of, oh, okay, I have to work 7 days a week. I have to hustle. I have to make this happen. But you don't. And there's no amount of your human effort that can ever overcome the disobedience to God when we do not honor Sabbath. And I'm not talking about being legalistic and it has to be on a Sunday. But you need that rhythm. You need that rhythm to rest and to be quiet and to recharge, right? And God set the example for us in the creation story. He didn't need to rest. He's limitless. He's infinite. He didn't need it. And yet he rested on that seventh day. And it set the model for us. If God rested, certainly so should we, because he didn't need it and we do. And there are so many other ways in our lives that we need to practice these Sabbath rhythms. Shemitah was something that was practiced every 7th year. It was a Sabbath year, basically. And so every 7 years under the Mosaic covenant, they would forgive all loans, and the land would be untended for a year. It would they were not allowed to work the land. It was supposed to lie and rest for a full year. And anything during that year, during that Sabbath year, that the land produced of its own accord was free for consumption to anyone. It was available to everyone and anyone. Creatures, humans, everybody. And so that was a true trust and dependence on God, but it allowed the soil to rest and recharge and not be worked. It's a concept that we can barely even grasp today. And then every 7th Sabbath year, so every 49 years, there was Jubilee. And in Jubilee, not only were loans forgiven, not only did the land rest for a year, but all land that had been sold returned to its original owners. And all slaves were freed. And it was this pattern of resetting and this pattern of restoration, because we know our God is a God of restoration. It was this pattern of restoration that kept people from being burdened for life, a lifetime. And so I think there's so much we can learn from that. And To Hell with the Hustle is a book that really helped kind of open my eyes to this. And so I definitely recommend that. But you'll probably be hearing a lot more about this and about how we can weave these Sabbath rhythms into our business and into our family life, and how counterintuitively what it means is that essentially we have to ruthlessly protect that which is priority. And we tend to talk in terms of priorities, multiple. The original meaning of priority was that there was one most important thing. You couldn't have multiple most important things. You could have multiple important things, but you can't have multiple most important. They're still competing for that number one spot. And that's how we get into idolatry. And especially in this entrepreneurial world, especially as a solopreneur, I don't know if you can see it, but we easily make productivity an idol. We make it an idol. We think, oh, I checked off 18 boxes today. I did all these things. I produced all this stuff. That's awesome. I promise you, if you've produced that much in a day, if you've ticked off 25 things on your checklist, if you've done all these things that make people go, wow, like you're a superwoman, somebody somewhere has suffered. Something that was God's work for you to do likely suffered. And I say this from experience in my own life, because I know I've had many days like that, and I definitely have made productivity an idol in the past. And I have had people say to me, wow, I don't understand how you do it all. It's amazing. It's not amazing. And boy, did it used to jack me up, because I was prideful about it. I loved being able to get all these things done and having people think of me as a superwoman, and how wrong I was, how sadly wrong I was, because in the meantime, something suffered. Something went untended that shouldn't have, because my priorities weren't in order. I didn't have Sabbath rhythm. I didn't know how to do anything but hustle 24/7. And there's no healthy in that. There's no kind of healthy anything in that. Not physically for our physical health, not spiritually for our spiritual health, not in any kind of way. And so, as counterintuitive as it seems, I really want to encourage you this year to work less, not more, but to take that time that you're working and make it focused on the essential things. Focus it on the habits that you need to develop in order to have some measure of success. There's nothing wrong with success in business. What is wrong is sacrificing everything that is priority, or that should be priority in your life to get there. What is wrong is putting that above your growth and your walk with God. And I say this from a place of having done it and seeing the error of my ways, not from a place of criticism or a place of judgment, because we're human, guys. This is our tendency. It's our tendency to want to take the attributes of God that were never meant to be reflected in us. Things like his limitlessness, things like his infinite power, like his omniscience, his omnipresence. What do you think we're doing with the smartphones? And Jen Wilkin talks about this in her book, None Like Him, where she discusses the incommunicable attributes of God. We're trying to be in two places at once. We can't. We're trying to do all the things at the same time and not miss any of it. We can't. It's a life of trade-offs. It has to be. And so you have to decide what that priority is. And so much of what we'll talk about this year is really going to be relating back to that. How can you cut down to the essential, spend your time in your business working on the priority so that you're weaving in these Sabbath rhythms? Because guys, I've said it before, you'll probably get sick of hearing me say it, but at the end of the day, at the end of everything, the only investment that has eternal significance is the investment that we make in other people. That's it. That's it. We don't get to carry any of the rest of the stuff with us. No accomplishments. When you get to Judgment Day, God is not going to ask you what your GPA was. And trust me, I have worshipped the author of the GPA. I say this about myself. He's not going to care what my GPA was. He's not going to care what my accomplishments were. He's not going to care how many different volunteer boards I served on. He's not even going to care how many different ministries I orchestrated, because you know what? Our ministry can be an idol too. What he's going to care, what he's going to ask about is not that he doesn't know the answer, but we're going to have to answer for every word that we've spoken that's come out of our mouths. We're going to have to answer for whether or not we were obedient. And thankfully, if you're in Christ, we're covered by his righteousness and we don't have to worry about the outcome, but we still have to stand there and answer for that one day. He's going to ask us if we loved him with everything that we are and if we loved others like we love ourselves, because those were the two greatest commands. That's what Jesus gave us. And when we are throwing so much of ourselves into our business that we don't honor Sabbath and we don't have Sabbath rhythms and we don't have margin. Jeff Bethke talks about it in To Hell with the Hustle as margin to be inconvenienced, right? How often have you ever gotten super stressed out because something came along that needed attention? Somebody legitimately had a need and you needed to go meet it, but it was in the middle of all of these other things that you had scheduled. But what if you had the margin scheduled that you could be inconvenienced without it being this stressful thing that tainted your perspective on the ministry opportunity that inconvenience actually presented? And so these are kind of the things that I'm going into this new year with, into 2020 with. And I hope that some of that strikes a chord with you. I know that I've talked to so many people in the past week, and shockingly, although I shouldn't be shocked, but shockingly, it's kind of a thread that's running through a lot of people in my circles that are having the same realization about Sabbath and rest and the pulling back from the work. Because we can accomplish so much in so little time if we have our focus in the right place, and that's on Christ. And if we are being obedient, and if we are following the model that he set for us in creation, for rest, for Sabbath, and discipleship. And so I'm so excited to go into this new year with you guys, and I would love to hear any thoughts or feedback that you have. What's your perspective on this? Have you found any of this to be true? Are you tired of hearing about the hustle and grind and the attitude of, I don't need sleep, I need to make this work? It's not going to get us any further. It's not, guys. So anyway, again, I'm looking forward to huge shifts in 2020, and I hope you are as well.